Interest rates are either going up, going down, or pausing this week. So if you're watching this video, chances are about later, I don't know, in about 24 hours or so, you're probably going to be getting the Fed's decision to either be raising rates, pausing rates, or even cutting rates. So, but before we actually get into that, I feel like I have to kind of preface what is actually happening in the whole entire economy. Okay, I'm pretty sure that you probably already heard of it, which is Credit Suisse getting bought over by UBS for about $3.2 billion. And this is kind of insane, okay, because Credit Suisse back in 2015, 2016, they were actually worth about $70 billion. In 2020, in 2021, they were worth about like $12 billion or so. Right now, they're actually getting acquired for $3 billion. So kind of scary how the whole entire banking facility is actually happening, which is why a lot of people are actually talking about how this is going to be a huge issue. And that's kind of going to be playing into why this whole entire Federal Reserve thing is going to be quite interesting as well. So before this whole entire banking disaster actually happened, a lot of us were actually thinking, oh, okay, you know what? Chances are we're going to be getting a 50 basis point increment because, inflation, employment data, all of them are not exactly looking very, very good. Jerome Powell even came out to say, yeah, chances are we're going to keep rates relatively high. And that's kind of where the conversation actually went. However, after Silicon Valley Bank imploded, then you have Signature Bank imploding, imploded as well. And then now with all the entire Credit Suisse getting bought over by UBS, and now this whole entire thing becomes a huge issue because it means that whatever the Fed has been doing is finally working. However, it worked way too well. So well to the point where banks are just going bankrupt. Okay, and this is horrible for the market, of course. Okay, now to give you expectation, okay, the Feds are most likely going to be pausing rates for this next FOMC meeting, which is in the next 24 hours. My feel is that they're going to be pausing rates. Chances of them actually cutting rates is quite slim, but I can kind of see the narrative behind it, simply because if they were to cut rates, do understand that this is not going to be QE. For people who don't understand what QE and QT means, QE is just quantitative easing, QT means quantitative tightening. Okay, we're not going to be seeing quantitative easing even if they were to be cutting rates. Why? Now you have to understand that when they're actually doing QE in general, for example, back in March of 2020, when they talked about QE, we're talking about how they're actually racking the money printer out because people need money and we have to ensure that economy continues going. But right now, this is kind of different. They have to cut rates in order to ensure that banks don't go kapoof. And this is a whole different set of data that we have never really played with. You don't really see the Federal Reserve go all the way to 5% interest rates. And whenever they actually do, you usually see a recession that comes after. So this is kind of in line with what we most likely would see in the market as well. So ultimately, I do think that this is not exactly something that's unplanned. Okay, so a rates pause would most likely happen. However, the chances of Jerome Powell actually coming up to say, yeah, we don't really care about the banking situation. We are going to be increasing by 25 basis point increment. There is a possibility of that happening. Why? Because by you actually getting into a QE cycle, aka pausing rates or even cutting rates, what you're actually introducing is inflation. Inflation would become even stickier, more than ever. And that's going to be a huge issue for Jerome Powell. Because remember, his dual mandate. Jerome Powell only needs to care about two different things. One, to keep inflation down to a reasonable expectation of about 2%. And the next is to lower unemployment as much as he can. Maximum unemployment. That's his dual mandate. Keeping the banking industry afloat isn't part of his mandate. So there's no reason for him to actually be saving the banks. Of course, he would most likely be pressured by the Biden administration to actually keep the banking system afloat because Biden probably wants to get another term in office. So if he don't settle this whole entire stuff before he actually leaves the office, yeah, chances of him getting re-elected is pretty low. Okay, because under Biden's watch, you basically have the whole, COVID situation Russia-Ukraine situation, Afghanistan situation, and now even the banking failure, followed with a prolonged, extended recession that's most likely going to be happening. 5 huge events in just one term is absolutely crazy. Okay, so chances are they're going to be pressuring Jerome Powell to say, you know what, you better be cutting rates. You better be cutting rates. We need to lower rates. So I think that there is a chance that Jerome Powell is going to stay firm and just be like, you know what, yeah, we don't care. We're going to still continue on with our 25 basis point increment. We're going to continue to ensure that inflation don't become entrenched. We need to ensure that inflation goes away in the next few months. Okay, kind of almost like a mini Paul Volcker sort of style. So a lot of people are expecting that to be the case as well. However, I do think that the street consensus right now is that we are most likely going to be having a rates pause simply because of the whole entire banking industry. If you have multiple bank collapse happening at the same time, the QE cycle is going to be coming. It doesn't really matter. It will come. Because if all the banks suddenly just collapse due to bonds, oh my god, that's crazy. So if that were to happen, I can assure you that most likely people are going to be bailing them out. Once they bail them out, rates are going to drop, and you're going to have a pretty quick recession. That sort of situation would most likely be happening. But right now, I do think that if that would be the case, if we do see a 25 basis point increment, markets are gonna hate it, like hate it so much, because a 25 basis point increment is going to be like a 2% or 3% down in the market. If we do somehow see 50 basis point increment, which is according to what Jerome Powell actually said he would most likely be doing. Well, he didn't say it, but the thing is that he kind of implied it when he was testifying in front of Congress. If he was implying a 50 basis point increment for this upcoming FOMC meeting, I think it's going to be atrocious. I think the market most likely will drop 4 or 5% even, because that means that the Paul Volcker era is going to be coming. It is going to be coming, effectively, if we were to see a 50 basis point increment. And also, let's not forget that we're also going to be getting the SEP, which is the Summary of Economic Projections. So that's going to be very important for us to actually see the federal funds rate by the end of 2023, the terminal funds rate, because we want to see that is Jerome Powell going to be revising it upwards as what he said when he was testifying to Congress. Because if the SEP actually comes out to be 5.5% or even 6%, then yes, chances are we probably will see a pause, and then we are going to see 25 basis point increment continuously all the way till the end of the year again. Again, that's not going to be good for the market. That's going to be pretty bad. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have for the so-called expectation video, and of course, with the whole entire economy just crashing down and down and down. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.